they were tone deaf. Their marketing was tone deaf. They didn't listen to people. At Tata Motors, unfortunately, it bred a lot of arrogance. You step on it and go, brrr. The Nexon is an evolution of the Indica Vista platform. TVS has invested in a brand new engine platform in 2024. Oh God,
You
man.
can hear it and you're breathing in all that fumes.
Oh, there was a bike in that tent. That guy was going, what the Week 50 of 52. This is the Evo India podcast, and we are continuing with our cars of the week. I'm Sirish Chandran, editor of Evo India.
And I'm Aatish Mishra, assistant editor at Evo India.
So now this week, I drove down to Goa for India Bike Week and the MotoSoul.
Correct.
I drove down in the newest car in the Evo India fleet. The fastest car, the loudest car. I'm talking about the GLE 53 AMG, 4MATIC Plus, Coupe, all of that.
Yeah.
But the GLE 53 AMG, I drove down to Goa in that. I was actually in two minds. We got the i7 also in the fleet.
Yeah.
So now the i7 obviously is more comfortable. It's a luxury car, but electric. So did I want to stop and wait and charge, or did I want to take an AMG and drive down? Now,
And after so many electrics in your fleet, this was like probably a palate cleanser.
yeah. And the thing was that I was actually thinking whether to take an AMG.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me question my own petrol head credentials. Luckily for me, the answer came very quickly that no, you'd be mad not to drive an AMG.
Yeah.
But the fact that I'm actually
Considering
considering
an EV.
between an electric car
But
and an AMG.
To be fair, you're considering it against one of the best EVs out there today. So
Yeah, okay, so that's some consolation.
Yeah.
But I'm actually worried about my petrol head credentials.
yeah, I think it's forgivable in front of the i7. It's forgivable.
Okay, I hope so. So then my Zen is parked. After a very long, the Zen is parked at home.
Yeah.
So I went for a chakkar in the Zen.
Huh.
Just as, like you said, a palate
Palate
cleanser.
cleanser, yeah.
No, just to clean the cobwebs out. And I actually personally scared myself that I'm thinking of taking an EV when there is a bloody AMG.
Yeah.
So I took the Zen round for a block and around the block. Everything sorted. Took the AMG.
Correct.
That was a nice drive. So we're going to talk about two things.
Yes.
The India Bike Week. Actually, three things. India Bike Week, MotoSoul, GLE 53
Yeah.
AMG. The road to Goa. So that's the fourth thing. What did you drive?
I was in Goa a day after you were there, actually. We met for dinner. And then I was in Goa for the Honda Amaze drives. I don't know how much we're going to be able to tell you this week because we covered the Amaze last week in the podcast and I'm under embargo with my driving impression. So I can't tell you more than what we already said last week.
I can answer one question because I had a question at the launch which I posed to the Honda management.
And it's all factual.
And it's all factual.
Yeah.
And the question I posed was, what is Honda's criteria for calling a car all new?
Yeah.
So the Amaze is called the third generation Amaze, all new Amaze. What is the criteria for calling a car all new?
I didn't really get a straight answer from them.
Yeah, because the chassis is the same.
Yes.
Suspension is the same.
Yeah.
Engine is the same.
Yeah.
Transmissions are the same.
Correct.
It's got a facelift. So this should ideally be called a facelift. So
Yeah.
I asked them the question. I'll give you the reply that they gave me.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah.
But where should we start this podcast?
We've got other stuff to talk about also this week. We drove a couple of cool cars. We drove the BYD Seal finally.
The BYD Seal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Both of us hadn't driven it because Anand had gone for the first drives. And since it's part of our ICOT evaluations, we need to just get some seat time in the car. So they send that over. And something really cool I want to talk about this week. It's not really... it's more of a timeless thing. We did drive all of these cars though. This is the latest issue of Evo India. It's on stands now. And in this issue, we've got a story about Ratan Tata's cars or cars that Ratan Tata had an influence on and the legacy that he's left behind with the machines that he built.
Yep.
So we've got a lot of cool cars in there. Sierra, Indica. We've got the EVs, the Nexon EV, the Range Rover acquisition. And we've also got a Mercedes in there, which is interesting.
Yep.
But we'll get to all of that. And we'll give you a brief teaser of this next Gone But Not Forgotten episode that's going to drop very soon. And the whole story is in the magazine as well.
Yeah, so this has been a labor of love. It's taken time to put all of this together because first we needed to shortlist the cars. And these are not the cars that he owned, but the cars that Ratan Tata was involved with. And these are the cars that have been seminal in the Indian context.
Yes.
They gave structure to the Indian automotive industry. They actually put Indian automotive engineering on the global map. people noticed what is capable in India
Mhm.
and also the potential of the country. This actually unlocked a lot of engineering potential and got people to buy cars that they actually wanted.
Yeah.
Now, when the Indica came out, we had the Zen. The Zen, for how much ever that we love it, it was cramped. And the ride quality was nothing to talk about. So his statement, his vision statement for the Zen, the space of an ambassador
Yeah.
in the footprint of a Zen, that itself seems impossible. Then, with the running cost of a Maruti 800,
Yeah.
how is that even possible? But eventually, the Indica, it actually delivered on that.
Yeah.
And to just make sure that we got it right and he got it right, we got an ambassador.
Yeah.
We got my Zen, and that was after maybe 4 or 5 years I'm getting my hands on my Zen.
Mhm.
Started at one crank. It's not idling anymore properly.
Yeah.
But we drove it to a shoot location, drove it back. I had a good time in the Zen. So we got the ambassador, we got the
Yeah.
Zen, we got the 800, and the Indica, it really does fulfill that brief.
Nice.
It's
Yeah.
now, okay, we don't talk about the Indica. You don't even see too many Indicas on the road. Fact is, the Indica is not a very loved car, and a lot of it have just fallen apart
Yeah.
because towards the end, it was only used as cabs. You could hear the cabs. When they entered your gate, you could hear
Yes.
it a mile away with that fan belt screeching. Obviously, all of them
Yeah.
were diesels. So there's no love for the Indica.
Correct. And also, we look back at it kind of with rose tinted glasses, but at the time when they launched it, there were reliability issues.
They were. So
You
when the
can't-
Indica was
Yeah.
launched, there was a lot of problems. It had independent rear suspension.
Mhm.
Don't forget. I don't think too many people will remember, but everything else, torsion beam.
Yeah.
The Indica had independent rear suspension. So sophisticated underpinnings, but that independent rear suspension also created a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Alignment issues. That
Yeah.
was a huge issue. Electrical issues. There were tons of
It
problems.
was Tata's first attempt at building a properly modern car.
Yep. It was Tata's first car. If you
Discount
discount
the
the Safari
Sierra.
and the Sierra,
Yeah.
those were ladder frames, so those were SUVs.
Correct. So
It was Tata's first car.
proper monocoque.
It was India's first indigenous car.
Yeah.
The Indica put India in a club of just 10 countries that had made their own car until then. So
Yeah.
for India, it was momentous. In fact, and this was doing research for the story, I learned that Ratan Tata had actually approached other Indian manufacturers and the Indian auto component industry to come together to create a car, sort of like an Asian car. And everybody laughed him off and said that, hello, you learn to build a car first, then you come and talk to us. And that's why he went out on this solo mission to develop the Indica. Now, the question is, what was his greatest achievement? Was it the Nano?
Yeah.
Was it the Indica? People in the know, people more learned than myself, they say it was the Indica because then there was nothing.
Correct.
They say that during the Indica's time, when Tata Motors went out, and Telco, or Tata Engineering as they were called, when they went out to vendors, it was a struggle to get them to deliver what they wanted. Whereas with the Nano, nobody said no. Because by then, Ratan Tata had gone into that position of stature, and people knew that when he said something,
Yes.
it would be done. So people bent over backwards for the Nano. For the Indica, they did not.
Yeah.
So it was a struggle to get the Indica there. The first Indica, like you said, a lot of reliability problems. In fact, it got to a point where Tata Motors posted their first ever loss, their biggest ever loss. Shareholders said that it was because of the damn Indica project, that's why the company is losing money. Tata Motors were thinking of hiving off the passenger car division, keeping only commercial vehicles. And then they worked on the V2, and that was like a skunk works division that worked really hard on sorting out the V2. When the V2 came out, everything was there. The fundamentals were there. People wanted a diesel.
Yeah.
Because those days, diesel versus petrol, the price equation was massive. So a diesel in a hatchback, sorted. Space, sorted.
Yeah.
Reliability issues, more or less sorted. I wouldn't say completely because I had a Indica V2 long-termer. That gave me problems.
Yeah.
So not completely sorted,
Yeah.
but not by a long shot,
Yeah.
but more or less sorted. And that meant it became India's best-selling car. It was the fastest car to reach 1 lakh sales, whole host of records. And the Indica then was off to a flyer. Then obviously Tata Motors, they just kept incrementally improving it.
Yes.
1.4 engine became 1.2 to meet that sub 4 meter class regulations, a little bit more torque, a little bit more this, a little bit more that. Minor, there was a Zeta. We've talked about all of this in the Indica Gone But Not Forgotten episode, which is out there.
Yeah.
On
Already
our
live.
YouTube channel. It's already live.
Yeah.
We got the nicest example out of that, the V2 for the Ratan Tata Gone But Not Forgotten, which will be out very soon on the Evo India channel. So that's on the Indica.
Yeah. But let's rewind it. The Indica wasn't the start. It was the Sierra.
It was the Sierra.
Yeah.
That was when I was in school or college. I think maybe that cusp of school, college, that is the time the Sierra came out. And the Sierra was the coolest thing on the road.
It still looks cool, even today.
Yeah, it still looks really cool. And that goes back to Ratan Tata's time in the US, where he studied architecture. And if you look at the 80s Ford Bronco, especially the silhouette and the window line, that is the Sierra. We were not exposed to the Ford Bronco. A lot of people would hear of the Bronco because the Bronco is this cool car, sort of like what Land Rover has reborn the Defender for the modern era. So now you have the Ford Bronco. So it's a cool thing. But honestly, 3 years ago, anybody would have known of the Bronco? Nope. It was a very North American car. And we've got an image of the Bronco in the magazine. Yeah. We'll also have it obviously on the episode. The silhouette, it's the same. And that reflects his time in the US. Yeah. The estate looks ditto Mercedes.
Yes.
And that goes back to Tata Motors' start in their vehicle manufacturing era, because he started off with Mercedes-Benz, a partnership to make Mercedes-Benz trucks.
Yes.
Sumant Mulgaonkar, who was the head at Telco before Ratan Tata came on board, he was a big fan of German engineering. Obviously, we still are big fans of German engineering. And that reflected his thinking, mindset, looked exactly like a Mercedes-Benz, which was cool because for Indians, even today, but especially back then, there was no BMW or Audi in everybody's sights.
It was all
if
Mercedes.
You had a Mercedes, means, you were God. So having an Indian car that looked like a Mercedes, in fact, when they launched the 207 pickup, which predated the Sierra, a lot of bodybuilders made Mercedes E-Class lookalike bodies on that pickup. That was a done thing when I was in school. It was a very, very cool looking thing. I don't know what it drove like, because obviously it was a pickup, right? But it was a very cool looking thing. So then you had the Estate, which looked like a German car. Again, reliability was terrible. We drove an Estate. The Estate, it did not have power. This was pre-diesel turbo engines. So it weighed a ton. I made you lift the bonnet of the Estate.
No, I was not there.
Okay, so I made the boys lift the bonnet of the Estate. When you normally open a bonnet, you use one hand. You cannot lift the bonnet of an Estate with one hand. That bonnet is made out of pure metal, like steel. You can stand on the bonnet and it won't dent. It is that heavy. That thing weighed 2 tons. It's a monster of a vehicle. And power, nothing to talk about. But what they learned with the Estate and the Sierra, that went into the Safari. And that laid the template for the luxury or premium SUV, not in the monocoque front-wheel drive sense.
And they did it before it was cool.
Yep. So in the OG sense, ladder frame, rear-wheel drive with the option of 4x4 with low ratio. With low ratio. So ladder frame, rear-wheel drive with the option of 4x4.
Proper SUV.
Proper SUV. And if you notice the side profile of the Safari, it's got a kink in the roof. With the new Safari also, and I remember Pratap Bose, he was then the head at Tata Motors Styling. He pointed out to that kink and said, this is inspired by the earlier Safari. It did not strike me then. But this time when I spoke to some insiders who were there at Tata Motors back then, they said that the kink is there for headroom. And that headroom was there because Ratan Tata wanted 6-footers to be comfortable in the second row as well as in the jump seats right at the back. So that goes back to him. His specification of space. Tata Motors always made spacious cars. Even the Nano, extremely spacious.
For the footprint that it had.
And that was so that he could sit in the front as well as at the back. So for the longest time in the hinterland, all the politicians, the big dogs, they always had Safaris. You know why? Because their PSOs,
with the
their
guns,
security officers, could sit right at the back in the jump seats with their banduks. They didn't have pistols. They had banduks. So the banduks could stand upright. Plus the tailgate, it could be open from the inside. So as the car came to a rolling stop, they could open, jump out, and make sure they flanked the big dog in the front or in the middle row. So it served an Indian purpose.
Yeah.
In fact,
And then eventually the Scorpio got it too.
yep, the Scorpio also got it too.
Yeah.
In fact, the Bolero Neo, which
That
was the
also has
PUV,
it. Yeah.
the Bolero Neo, that still has that.
Yeah.
And it's still used because people with banduks can keep their guns upright at the back.
Yeah. So we've got the sub 4 meter rule and we've got the banduk rule.
The banduk rule. And this is sub 4 meter blending with the banduk rule.
Yeah,
So
true.
it serves a purpose. In India, everything has to serve a purpose. And
Yeah.
this is, we don't, maybe in the city, we don't think about these things, but all of this serves a purpose in some place or the other in the country.
True.
So that was the Safari luxury SUV, little underpowered,
Mm-hmm.
but for its time, now this was inspired by the Pajero. What else was there? You had only the Pajero, which a few Bollywood types and industrialists had it. They were imported. This was before Hindustan Motors imported them and then started assembling them in India. Now, the Safari came out just before the Indica. And Tata Motors had this habit of doing like two big product launches back to back, and one eating the thunder of the other. Safari came, and very soon after, the Indica came, and the Indica was like massive. The Safari was also popular because there was nothing else like it. Indica was a massive success, put Tata Motors on the path to real glory. Towards the end also, it ruined the reputation of the brand. What else did we have? We had the Nano.
Yeah.
Then Nano,
We have to talk about the Nano.
path breaking,
Yeah.
the effort that went into it. Every single area was looked at with the lens of cost.
Yeah.
So the wheel nuts, 3 lugs.
Yeah, that's such a cool story about the Nano.
Not 4 lugs,
Yeah.
3 lugs.
Because imagine how many they saved over
Yeah.
the number of Nanos they
Yeah.
produced.
While doing research,
Yeah.
I realized that when they were putting this together, they wanted to use automotive plastics. Because Ratan Tata thought that plastics would probably be innovative and also save cost. They worked very, very hard with General Electric to try to figure out a cost-effective solution. Even the boss of General Electric, he was involved personally in the project because Ratan Tata was personally involved here with Tata Motors. But eventually, they got the price down to $140 per kilo, whereas steel was 105 to 110. So eventually, they had to go with steel. Another example. So Ratan Tata's personal friendship with the head of Bosch Automotive Group, Bernd Bohr, if I recall right, that led to Bosch taking on the development of the ECU, and they brought it in at half the cost of what was there on the Indica.
Wow.
So there also lots of money saved. The engine, it started off as a 500 something, 450 or 500 cc. Ratan Tata said this is too slow. And then it went up and finally to 654 cc. It first had a CVT gearbox.
Achha.
Yeah. Now, I also did not know this.
Yeah.
But over the Diwali break, in fact, when I was doing all this research, I read it first had a CVT gearbox. But then R&T said that this gearbox is not working. So then they developed a 4-speed gearbox. In fact, before the engine, they scouted the world to buy in an engine. But they just could not find an engine that would suit their requirements.
Cost was probably the biggest one.
Yeah. You remember this was rear-wheel drive.
Yeah.
Air-cooled.
Yeah.
It was India's Porsche.
Yeah, pretty much. Beetle was more accurate.
Okay, chalo, Beetle. Yeah, because it didn't move like a Porsche. Yeah. So this one, the dashboard, it was designed so that it could have been left-hand drive or right-hand drive. They did have the Nano Pixel. The Nano Pixel was a concept. Cool. Yeah, it was a concept shown at the Geneva Motor Show. Yeah. And that had rear wheels that could also move. Rear wheel steering.
I remember it for the scissor doors.
Scissor doors, yeah. But because of that rear wheel steering, that way that rear wheels moved, and also the rear wheels could be turned in the opposite direction to the fronts. So you could basically turn it on its axis. It had a turbocharged diesel engine.
So this was the tank turn before it became cool in the G-Wagon.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, it was a cool thing. Yeah. And as a concept, it was damn cool, based on the Nano. They wanted to take the Nano to Europe, but in India, there was so many problems. Yeah. They set up the factory in Singur. Then they had to dismantle the entire factory. And somebody wrote in that book that a factory is not designed to be dismantled. Whereas they had to dismantle that entire factory after it was set up, after pilot production had started. Yeah. And then move it from extreme east of the country to extreme west. And then set up at Sanand. And while the setting up was happening at Sanand, then Pune and Pantnagar were temporary Nano manufacturing bases. Now, obviously, quality would take a hit. There were fires. The Nano was getting like crazy attention, and these fires got super crazy attention. So then reliability issues started coming in. And finally, it just boiled down to the fact that nobody wanted the cheapest car. The Nano, any car for that matter, is a very personal thing. It's something that you want to buy a car. You know, but you won't tell somebody that, no, I bought the world's cheapest car. And why would you buy the world's cheapest car? Because you can't afford anything better.
Yeah.
And I think that put the first nail in his coffin. Then Tata Motors was tone deaf. They thought they made the coolest thing, greatest thing. They were tone deaf. Their marketing was tone deaf. They didn't listen to people. It's always that success at Tata Motors, unfortunately, it bred a lot of arrogance. And then that reflected. And that led to the decline. Eventually, towards the end, the Nano twist. Then they had the Gen
I remember
X.
the later ones were really nice.
Yeah.
It
had power steering. It had the AMT automatic gearbox.
Yeah.
It had an opening tailgate. So it had all of it, but it was too little, too late. And obviously the price went up. So then it was on par with an Alto.
Which is such a pity because revolutionary thought like this in other countries. You look at the Mini, you look at the Beetle.
Model T.
You look at the Model T. These have laid foundations and very, very strong foundations for not only companies but for entire automotive markets.
Yeah.
You know, the British market, the German market, the American market. But the Nano had that potential, but it
was Time magazine voted it as amongst the top 10 most influential cars of all time.
Yeah, and it should be. It deserves to be.
I was at the launch at the Auto Expo. I've never seen so many journalists thronging into one Auto Expo hall. I've never seen so many international journalists at an Indian launch event. It was wild.
Yeah.
The interest was through the roof.
It was a seminal moment because think of the potential that it had. You know, if it worked, India was not the only developing country that needed a cheap car. It's 50% of the world, maybe more.
So Carlos Ghosn, he saw what Tata Motors did with the Nano. That set the wheels in motion first for a partnership between Bajaj and Renault to make a low-cost car. That didn't quite pan out, but that led to the Kwid.
Yeah.
Because then he got his guy to come to Chennai to set up a full team to make the Kwid. So the Nano inspired the Kwid, and then everything that the Kwid inspired, including the Citroen C3. Yeah. Because that's from the same, cut from the same cloth, you know. Yeah. So it inspired so much. It led to so much. And parallel, like I said at the start of this, Tata Motors had the habit of doing two back-to-back things, two big things back-to-back. When the Nano came, you know what else came?
What else?
The Indica Vista. It came at the same time.
Yeah.
So it had no breathing room. And the Vista, it was actually a new generation car.
Yeah.
But because the styling looked evolutionary, everybody thought it was yet another facelift of the many facelifts that the Indica
had already been stretched for so long.
Yeah. But then Vista was done because Ratan Tata had international ambitions. He didn't just want to play around in India. He wanted to go global.
Yeah.
The Indica did go global for a short while when it went to UK as a City Rover.
Yeah.
But that was short-lived, and City Rover went kaput and all that entire thing.
Remember how much trouble we had to find a picture of that car?
Yes. Yeah. So that didn't quite work out. But the Vista was engineered to meet European crash safety norms. The Vista, it also came about at the same time as the Tata Fiat partnership. So it got the Fiat 1.3 litre diesel engine, which was the best small diesel engine in the world, most popular diesel engine in the country. All of that, okay, on the side. But you know what was the most relevant or most lasting thing on the Indica Vista? The fact that that platform was engineered so well, it continues as the Nexon.
Yes.
The Nexon is an evolution of the Indica Vista platform.
Unbelievable,
so
right?
That investment 20 years ago in the Indica project is still reaping dividends.
Yeah. And now into the EV space.
Like Tata Motors might call it new platform. But active EV, it is that Indica platform that's continuing.
Unbelievable.
Amazing, right? Yeah. That's amazing. And that just shows the vision of the man.
Yeah.
Okay. And also if you do things right at the start.
Correct.
Okay, you can reap dividends for years and years and years in ways that you would not probably envisage
Yeah.
at the start of the project.
Yeah. True. Unbelievable.
Yeah. So that was the Indica Vista.
Yes.
There's
Let's
a
talk about the
Mercedes.
Mercedes. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a Mercedes in the story now.
Why is there a Mercedes in the
Now,
story?
Ratan
Sirish?
Tata had no input in the design of the W124 E-Class, in the styling, in nothing. But his crucial input was when Mercedes-Benz was coming to India, they actually planned to bring in the C-Class because Mercedes didn't quite realize how strong the Mercedes brand was. So the C-Class would have been $1.5 lakh cheaper than the E-Class. So they thought we'll bring it at a lower price point so that the price would not. And remember when the 124 E-Class was launched in India, it was the most expensive car in the country. It was more expensive than anything Tata Motors had ever made, including all their trucks, everything. So they were worried about the price. But Ratan Tata insisted that they bring the W124 E-Class and not the next generation, which was already out in global markets, because he said, we are going to start. We are not in a position to make this. That new E-Class was a technological leap ahead of the 124. The 124 was a simple car. He said, let's make this car in India. Let's get our basics right. Then we move up. So the W124 E-Class was assembled in a line that was set up at Tata Motors' factory at Pimpri, at J Block. Then Mercedes-Benz moved to Chikli village, which is on the edge of the Tata Motors factory on land leased from Tata Motors. When they moved out of Chikli, Mercedes-Benz, they moved to Chakan. When Mercedes started off, I should remind you, it was 51% Mercedes-Benz, 49% Tata Motors, Telco. It was a JV going with the rules of the time and how things were done at the time. Then progressively it became a fully Mercedes-Benz subsidiary. That's when they moved to Chakan. They vacated the plant that they set up at Chikli, which was adjacent to the Tata Motors plant. Who moved in there? Jaguar Land Rover. So in a year or 2 years after Mercedes-Benz moved out of that, Jaguar Land Rover had a ready-made facility to move right into.
Lovely.
So you remember the Mercedes-Benz factory? Now you enter, you have the fountain over there.
Correct.
The Chikli one, which is now Jaguar Land Rover, has the same setup.
Also has a fountain.
It has a fountain in front. And that entrance where it's got like a sort of like a awning. Yeah. And then it's the same thing. It's that global Mercedes CI for their worldwide plants.
Mad.
So that's when Tata Motors acquired Jaguar Land Rover.
Yeah.
Momentous occasion. And you have to give it to Tata Motors. They've nurtured the brand so well that today it accounts for, I think, 74% of Tata Motors' profits. It's still doing crazy numbers.
And that's only half of it doing those numbers.
Yeah, they're making so much money that they can invest in this crazy Jaguar rebranding that's going on.
Yeah.
So it's Tata Motors, their management, they left JLR management to do things as they saw fit. They realized that we cannot give any inputs on engineering. So they let them do what they wanted. Then they got key people, the best guys from BMW, from Porsche, from I think another, like a major European OEM, put them there, but mainly BMW. And those guys did wonders. And now you look at where JLR is.
Yeah.
So that's the whole story. And now that platform sharing is going to take another step forward. Tata Motors is going to use the electrified Land Rover architecture.
That's what
the Avinya
is going to be. Yeah.
The Avinya is going to have the guts of a electric Land Rover.
Yeah.
An electric Land Rover will be made in India. Finally, obviously, the full-size Range Rover is being assembled in India, but an electric Land Rover will be made here.
These are still plans in the future, but they should happen.
It's all happening.
Yeah.
And that just shows what a strong base he built for for the country and put India on the global automotive map.
Yeah.
And that's why one single person who was the most important person for India's automotive story has to be Ratan Tata.
That vision is unmatchable.
It's immense, and like full credit to the man. For us automotive enthusiasts also. And Indica was probably not an enthusiast car.
Yeah.
Okay, but a lot of enthusiasts got their first
taste of
driving in an Indica.
100%.
I learned to go sideways first on my Zen. But then more than that, I learned on that Indica long-termer that I had. That's why I went through 3 sets of tires. But I learned on that car.
Yeah.
The first rally car that I drove was a Indica rally car, which was used as a pace car in the INRC.
Yeah.
So it really put wheels on the dreams of enthusiasts.
And it's built this mammoth company today. And today Tata Motors is actually desirable. You know, people want to own Tata Motors cars. And that's such a seminal shift from 2 decades ago.
Yeah. And Tata's next big thing will be the Sierra.
Yeah.
Electric and combustion.
And it's come full circle.
Yeah. You know,
Beautiful.
life comes around full circle. Yeah. You know, I'm sure a lot of people would have hoped that he would have been around when the Sierra... That would have been such a cool story. Imagine an old Sierra, a new Sierra, and Ratan Tata with the two.
Unbelievable.
Would have been... What an epic image, right?
Yeah.
It would have been mind-blowing. Okay. Yeah, you can't wish for everything, you know. Everything has to come to a stop sometime or the other. But I think his is a life to be celebrated.
100%. And that's precisely what we've done in this story and in that video, which is coming out soon.
So check out the latest issue of Evo. We've got that full story. Like it took tons of research. Half my Diwali was spent just researching that.
What's nice about the story is we're not just saying, okay, Indica felt like this at the time, but we're telling you stories of the Indica, stories of Ratan Tata, stories of the Nano, you know, stuff that would have just been buried if it wasn't for like just the depth of research that was put into this and pulled out.
Yeah. So check that out. And now moving over to the cars of the week. So Aatish,
yes.
Honda Amaze, what can you tell us?
I really can't tell you much else than what we spoke about last week.
4-cylinder engine, very nice.
Yes, very. I can't say. I'm not allowed to give an opinion.
In general, 4-cylinder engines are nice.
4 cylinders are good.
Yeah.
I can tell you that much.
Yeah, so everything that we know and love about 4 cylinders continues. Everything we know and love about VTEC engines continues.
VTEC is great. VTEC is always great in other
VTEC
cars.
kicks in yo.
In other cars, yeah.
Okay, so you can't say anything, man.
I
What
really
a guy.
can't say anything. I mean, do you want to... Why do you want to bugger this up for us?
Okay, so
we'll be doing another podcast next week. The embargo will be lifted next week. We'll talk about the Amaze again next week.
December 16th.
Is the embargo, yes.
Okay, so December 16th, there'll be a full review of the Amaze on the
A quick review.
A quick review of the Amaze on the channel. I can talk about the GLE 53 AMG.
Yes, do. How was your fuel efficiency going to Goa?
6.1 kmpl.
And this is the hybridized
This is the
six-cylinder.
hybridized 6-cylinder.
Yeah.
So 6.1, 6.2 kmpl. But you know what the interesting bit is?
Yeah.
Crawling around in Goa, on the lovely highway out of Goa all the way to Gaganbauda, from where you turn off for the Anuskura Ghat, crawling up the broken patches of Anuskura, then flying down the other side of Anuskura, then the highway, everywhere 6.1. It'll go down to 5.9, go up to 6.3.
So conditions are irrelevant.
Yeah. And I think that's the hybrid thing at work.
Probably.
I was surprised that, you know, no matter how you drove it, it would be more or less in that same ballpark. And if you think about it, a lot of the 2-liter turbo petrol engines, okay, like the 700, the Tiguan, how much do they give?
8.
They give 7 to 8.
Yeah.
You know, this is an engine
Yeah.
that goes, you crank it up, it goes brrrr. The accelerator goes brrrr. You press the exhaust button, it goes brrrr.
Yeah.
You know, you step on it, go brrrr.
You've got your ride modes.
It's constantly making noise.
Yeah.
It's constantly tickling you from the inside. There's a constant sense of power. Okay. The 53s, in my opinion, were like, and they are okay, one step below the 68s. But this 53 is no short of power.
You said 68.
63, sorry, yeah. So the 53s were always one step lower than the 63s. They still are.
Yeah.
But the 53 is not lacking power, man.
8-cylinder versus 6-cylinder.
Yeah, but it moves.
Yeah.
It always sounds like there's plenty of reserve grunt. The quality, man, Aatish, the quality is... That's real Mercedes quality. It's not that 2000 screens. You still have physical buttons. And you have to keep, like, remember old Mercs? Because they don't want you to suffocate on your own CO2. So
they keep going off
air recirc, it always turns to fresh air.
Yeah.
not realizing that India,
just-
you'll die out of breathing that rather than your own CO2.
Yeah.
But you have to keep pressing that reset button. Every time you tap that button, that tactile feel
click.
of a button, that click.
Yeah.
Hey, like, why are people going away from this?
Yeah.
That feels like money.
Yeah. And they're coming back to it slowly but surely.
They will.
Yeah.
The Alcantara wrapped steering wheel.
Yeah.
The seats nicely bolstered.
How happy were your passengers with the ride quality?
Okay, so getting out of Pune, my wife, Selena, she said, why are we not taking that i7?
Yeah. I would think so.
Yeah, got out of Pune, she asked me that.
Yeah.
Halfway to Karad, she asked me that. But then once we crossed Karad
Yeah.
and got onto those nice, that's when you feel the body control. So over the bumps, it stays planted, doesn't throw you around,
Yeah.
goes around corners really well and effortlessly. And by the time we done with Anuskara, she was like, wow, this is nice. The thing also looks like a beast. Yeah. I got into a fight in Goa. I'm not proud of it. Came down narrow roads. Obviously, everybody tries to give each other way.
Yeah.
This uncle in a mini, I don't know, Napoleon complex. I told him to move 5 meters ahead because then I could just go ahead and get off the road. He refused to. He put his window down and said, if you come here in a truck. So, well, I also had to call him an so, okay, I apologize for that. But I think the GLE, it's intimidating. And I guess a person in a mini got really, really intimidated by this emerald green bordering on black GLE staring down his face. I was not driving like a lunatic, I must point out. But it looks on the money.
Yeah.
Every morning you get to the car, you look at it, and it's like, shit, this is the car that I'm driving. Yeah. A car is supposed to make you turn back when you lock the car in the evening. And in the morning when you look at it, you're like, I've done something in life that I'm driving something like this. So it makes you feel good. And I think a car that makes you feel good every day, week after week, is now a month since I've been using it.
Yeah.
And if every single day it can make you feel good about yourself,
I can imagine.
I think it does its job. And that's where an AMG really makes a difference.
Yep. We're back on the ICE bandwagon.
Yeah,
ranting about chargers and now
back on the ice, 100%.
now
back
celebrating
on the ice,
AMGs. Yeah.
Though this morning, in fact yesterday, we had some meetings in Bombay and I took the i7 because I had to work. So Anand came with me. Anand was driving me, and i7 sit on the side, work. I had my laptop open as I got out of my building here, and I shut the laptop when I entered the Mahindra gates at Kandivali.
Unreal.
I didn't throw up. Nothing. I had to get out once to take a leak. That's it. So
that i7,
the i7 does comfort,
but it's on another level.
But if you are driving,
an
AMG works.
Yeah.
It works. So, what did I go to Goa for?
You went for IBW and MotoSoul.
MotoSoul.
Yeah.
MotoSoul's cool because as you enter that Vagator hilltop, MotoSoul is first. They've got good parking. Yeah. They really do. They do have sorted parking. Park the car there, nice, safe. Give the parking attendant $100. Said, please sambalo. Walked across to MotoSoul. Very civilized. Obviously, there was noise, there was music and all of that. But nicely laid out. Small, but interesting. They always have their motorsport. So they're racing bikes, including the very first moped they went racing with, the Sherco Dakar bikes, their racing EVs, their electric motorcycle.
Very cool.
So,
they do it very nicely.
Yeah. And TVS always, racing is a big part of their heritage. They always have their race bikes, which I love.
And last year they actually had our record bike, which we did the 24-hour record
This year they still had a poster of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Lovely.
They had a poster of it. You could see me with my helmet on the side. Last year it was you. But this year it was me on the poster.
They knew I was not coming and you were coming. So they put you.
So the 24-hour record story was still a talking point.
Yeah.
A big talking point was the new engine. Now, this is a new 300 engine, which is not shared with BMW. So, and the only thing that the TVS guys said was that this is a family. Then obviously when I asked that, okay, can it be a 500? They say, ha ha ha. Can it be a twin? Ha ha ha. Third question I asked, they ran away.
Yeah.
So I didn't make too much conversation at TVS because by the third question, everybody's like, this journalist is too much. I'd rather go and have a beer with somebody else. But it's a family of engines.
Okay.
So it
That's
can go lower in
or
terms
higher.
of capacity, can go higher. It's a different configuration to the BMW engine, and this is their engine. So they can do what they want. They're not constrained by what BMW allows them to do.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you invested so much in an engine, and in this day and age, to be investing in a new engine,
Yeah.
okay, hats off TVS.
Absolutely.
That, I think, is the biggest story.
We didn't see it coming. Nobody saw it coming.
Nobody saw it coming. The first bike will be out in Jan, before the Bharat Mobility Show.
Okay, that's good news.
Yeah, so TVS has invested in a brand new engine platform in 2024.
Very cool.
Right? So that says that ICE is still going to be around.
100%, yeah.
And it still says that there is
Yeah, for
a lot
sure.
of potential for ICE.
And especially with enthusiast motorcycles, it's not going to go away anytime soon, I think.
Yep. So that was MotoSoul. Then obviously they had the DJ BJ and all of that.
Yeah.
Walked
Did some
across.
concerts and
Yeah, that is the Mandar and all of that. They probably had a good time at that.
yeah.
I walked across to India Bike Week. You've been to India Bike Week.
Have. Yeah.
Nothing has changed. The location is the same. It's still, you breathe in a ton of dust getting into IBW. How do I say it? You still have these idiots on their bikes going like,
And blowing them
what
up,
the
you
fuck
posted.
is wrong with people, man?
Yeah.
I put up that reel also.
Yeah.
One S1000 RR doing boom
Crazy.
up in. What is wrong with people?
Such
This
beautiful
is-
machines. And then
And it's not like you've gone to rent a bike and you're renting a bike and okay, chalo, you're renting somebody else's bike and you go, chalo, theek hai. This is your own bike. What's wrong with you? And that's so they had a club village where they had clubs from all over the country right down. Like that just shows the enthusiasm for
Yeah.
biking across the country. But that club village had village idiots.
Doing-
Don't mind me, but that was like in a closed tent also.
yeah.
So unlike at the entry where chalo, you can just walk past them, shut your ear and you walk past them. Here when you're in the club village, then there's no escaping. And in that, you're going, oh God,
You can
man.
hear it and you're breathing in all that fumes.
Oh.
And
And the shocking part is that the pulsars and all of that are as loud
yeah.
as
I'm
the
sure. I don't
super
doubt
bikes.
it for a second.
and they're not melodious.
Yeah.
They don't bring joy to anybody. And I guess a pulsar, if it blows, chalo, theek hai na. S1000 RR blowing is the problem. So there are these bloody pulsars and all that. And then whole bunch of, I think, locals go-ins on their two-strokes. A two-stroke, hearing it fly by going, wah, is really cool. But when you're next to a two-stroke and you're revving the hell out of it and it's pumping out white smoke and you have nowhere to go,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a mini torture chamber.
that's a cancer stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cancer stick in your face. And like, what's wrong with people? I went to the, they have that huge tent where all the accessory shops and all that were there. In that, there was a bike. In that tent, that guy was going, what the yeah, you really wanted to murder somebody.
Unreal.
I went and met Vicky, our friends from Performance Racing. I'm sitting in a stall talking to him. And that bike's going, take his own pipes and hammer him with it. Nice accessories. It's great to see the progress that India is making in terms of riding gear.
Yeah.
Now we're doing a lot of it locally.
Yeah.
Very high quality.
And not
That
just
Rhinox
gear,
stuff is actually good. And not only Rhinox, there's so much
Yeah. And it's not
else.
just gear. It's saddlebags. It's
Yeah.
luggage.
Yep,
It's
yep.
accessories. It's
So
we're doing everything
we're
now.
doing really good stuff here. Right? And India Bike is a great place to go and see all this because all of them are there. They're all displaying their wares. So that's cool. I saw the KTM bikes. Damn
The
cool,
new ones.
man.
Yeah. The
Damn
big bikes.
cool. Damn cool.
It took them long enough.
Yeah, and they're bringing it when the mother company is going kaboom.
It's probably why they're bringing it.
Come on, how much India, that volume for big bikes from India is not going to
it's
save
probably true.
KTM.
No,
I
not
think-
to save. Just get stock out, get it done with.
See, I think the only way out is Bajaj ups their stake in KTM.
Yeah.
KTM filing for bankruptcy and all of that is it's not good. And this shift has happened, in 2 years? In 2 years.
Yeah. And KTM was on top of the world.
Yeah, how things change. No? It's
Unbelievable.
yeah. So you always have to be careful, man. Today you'll be at the top of the world, and tomorrow filing for bankruptcy is scary, right?
Yeah.
I'm personally like, but the bikes are very cool. I've always thought KTM bikes are super cool.
And they also got the new 390s, no? The
Yep.
Adventures.
Prices were not announced at IBW,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah, those look so
very
good.
cool. Very
And
cool.
those are super relevant for us, you know. Okay, yeah.
And that is KTM's roots.
Correct.
You know, I know KTM from Dakar,
Correct.
from all their off-roading.
Yes.
The MotoGP, the racing, the road racing comes later.
Much later.
To me, it's all the off-road racing. That is the strength of KTM. So that this is something they should be doing. They should have done right at the beginning. But better late than never.
Absolutely.
So there was KTM there. There was Hero. There was Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson, obviously, I'm a hog. I'm a Harley owner. Harley Davidson had their annual India Harley ride, IHR. So that ended at Goa. So all the Harley Brotherhood was also there.
All the hogs.
All the hogs were there. My brothers, the Hog Brotherhood.
Brother, you're also a hog. Yeah,
I'm also a hog, yeah.
I forgot.
So, bumped the chests with them. Listened to Divine. There was a nice barbecue stall. So, ate lots of meat, drank lots of beer, and then was driven back home in the GLE 53.
Very nice.
Not before, again, having your ears explode
While everybody is leaving.
While leaving. And this is one thing that IBW can really sort out. On the way out, that's when the hordes of locals come in. Basically, gate crash and they can't stop them. But you should have like a way in which all the guys getting out don't have to be funneled into that narrow gap, right?
Yeah.
This is not a carburetor. We don't need a Venturi while getting out.
And I saw a friend of mine, big bike, it went kaput waiting in that traffic jam.
Yeah, so that can be sorted out. Every year, the same thing happens. Let us get out in a orderly fashion, right? Why do you have to get back out in that dust and that pasina and all of that? Oof, that's unwarranted, not necessary. This they need to really sort out, man. It's every year after year, if you go through the same thing. Like my wife said that, okay, this is the last IBW I am coming for.
Right.
Yeah. And IBW invariably coincides with our wedding anniversary. So if she's not coming, then that'll be the last IBW I go for. So they should just make a little bit that way. So you were saying that some guys you met went only to MotoSoul, saying that was more family friendly.
Yeah.
And that's a good takeaway.
Yeah, 100%.
As much as we love going to IBW, we also, end of the day, have families, right? And you also have to consider your better half.
What he said was that there was a little bit for everybody in the family to do. And I'm sure IBW also has it, but what is overpowering at IBW is the madness, is the hooligans, is the noise, is the maybe the entertainment also.
Yeah.
But at MotoSoul,
Divine is damn good, huh?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Entertainment is good.
That's what I'm saying. But it's there.
But it's only 5% polishing needed.
Yeah.
They'd be okay.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm sure they've, or at least all the learnings from this will go into generation speed.
For sure.
So that's the car version of IBW.
Which is happening next year.
Which is happening in February at Ambi Valley. And that's going to go one notch up in terms of the user experience.
Yes.
The UI UX. So things for the family to do, more sophisticated.
I'm sure we'll hear one or two cars going wow, wow, wow.
Well, when this drops, we'll have already heard a lot of cars going. So as we are filming this, we're getting ready for Underground 9 happening in Pune, which is this whole festival of cool cars.
Yes.
Including Zens to GTRs to cars that are coming down from Malaysia to drift cars. So they're going to be a burnout competition.
Loudest exhaust competition.
Yeah, so I told my wife, please don't come.
Earplugs.
Yeah. No, I told her, please don't come. Because then I won't hear the end of it.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going, obviously. Yeah. So, so generation speed, that's another cool platform. And all this car community, bike community things, it's great. It's great for the enthusiasts.
Absolutely.
It's great for growing the enthusiast culture.
It what brings us together, right?
Yeah.
It unites us. It gives us something to look forward to. It's just community.
Yeah. When we did this podcast with Martin Da Costa, head of 70AMG, one of the key driving forces behind India Bike Week, he said that he's a great fan of electric bikes. And I said, Arey, kya yaar, what electric bikes? But man, electric bikes at IBW, I think they can't come soon enough. Seriously. So
they have to get to IBW first.
But they really can't come soon enough, man.
Fair
because
enough.
this hooliganism. Yeah, I've got an Akrapovic on my Harley.
Yeah.
Okay, I like a nice exhaust note. I got a nice exhaust on my Porsche, but I won't do these things.
Yeah.
I won't screw up my own machine, and I won't screw up somebody else's
Hearing.
eardrums.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be, or maybe I'm getting old and driving too many EVs.
I wouldn't do it either.
Yeah, okay, you're
I'm
not.
a little
you're not
younger,
old.
but
Yeah, so this is, come on, man. Now,
Yeah.
chill, right?
Absolutely.
Grow up.
100%.
Anyway, on that note,
On that note, we reached back to Pune and we were driving the BYD Seal.
Seal.
Yes.
Okay, so what did you think?
So I actually liked it a lot. I think there are some quirks, like the cluster is a little hard to read, the screen's a little hard to use.
And the seat squeaks.
I think
when you
that's
adjust
because they've put in some aftermarket mats which
Okay.
are sitting under the seat and they're rubbing against the seat
Because it
bottom.
squeaks like hell.
Yeah, so it makes a lot of noise and it has that comfort entry and exit. So you open the door and it goes.
Yeah.
But I think that's because of those fat, thick mats that they've put. I don't think that's a thing of the car's fault. But as a car, you think about what you're getting at what value, you really can't complain. I'm okay to deal with a very tacky screen for 500 something horsepower at 55, 60 lakhs. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
I think the power delivery also is well matched. So when you put your foot down, it's not like your head hits the headrest.
And the modes work very well. You know, put
Yeah.
into eco is very gentle. You
Yeah.
put into comfort or whatever, what's the normal mode? I forget what it's called. But it's got reasonable punch and then sport is quick.
Yep.
You know, and it rides well. You know, okay, it's a little firm. It's heavy. You can feel maybe the weight over bumps and all of that. But it rides really nicely. The steering is quick.
Yeah.
You know, even around town, you're just driving it left,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
left, right.
yeah.
It feels nice, connected.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it. I understand why the Europeans are scared of the Chinese.
And you know what? So we drove the Mahindra Electrics. Then I drove the Seal.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like, oh, this is double the price and it feels like double the price.
Fair.
The interiors, big screen,
Yeah.
and that's it, right?
Yeah, it's got that trick which it can rotate.
It
vertical.
rotates. It's like a gimmick. No real use for it. I thought, okay, it was nice. But what Mahindra have done at not even half, maybe 35% of the price of the Seal. Okay, the Seal has got more power. It's got a little better handling. Car versus SUV, all of that. But that you won't feel shortchanged in a
You
Mahindra Electric after driving a Seal.
But I had another thought, which
Yeah.
is the opposite of what you had. I was like, the last 10%, you know, the Chinese have got down. In terms of the UI UX, the user experience,
Not in terms of the UI UX.
No, I think they have, you know, because you sit in the Seal, you don't have annoying things happening. Like you said, in the BE, when you put Android Auto, your AC controls go away. All of that stuff is better in the BYD. The Tatas are notorious for bad UI UX. You know, I have this next one with me and sometimes I go nuts with it because it's difficult to use and operate sometimes. You know, the gear shifter doesn't work. The screens sometimes are not buggy, but they're difficult to operate. The indicators sometimes have a mind of their own and they blink fast sometimes and they blink slowly sometimes. And it's just stupid stuff that doesn't need to happen. But with the Seal, I felt like the finishing was much better. That last 5% of finishing was better.
But I'll tell you what, at whatever 60, 70 lakhs that the Seal costs,
Yeah,
the Mahindra seems like great value.
it will be.
It really, and it does not feel like you're being shortchanged.
Yeah.
Which to me was just a reaffirmation of what Mahindra have done.
100%.
And
There's
now,
no denying that.
if they sort out their software,
Yeah.
that last bit of sorting out,
Yeah.
that's required.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
They're done.
Yeah.
I also suggested that in the Mahindras, when you use launch control and you put it when you click the boost, how in the BMWs, the entire screen, you have that big boost and you have that counter that shows 10, 9, 8, 7, how much a boost percentage you have, or that timer. I said, why don't you also do that? It's just writing code and having another screen.
Correct.
You don't need to change hardware. And just do a little bit more of that razzmatazz and drama. who knows, in time, they could also do a drift mode.
Yeah.
There's nothing to it. You just need to have one button with a map for it.
Yeah.
And maybe like a full gattu of papers that you sign off and say, I'm not responsible, I'm not responsible, Mahindra's not responsible.
I'm not doing this on public roads.
Yeah, all that. So you sign all of that. And that can all be done through the screen.
Digital
signature. So those indemnity and waivers, so you press that button, ding, screen comes, you sign all that waiver, Mahindra is not responsible, Mahindra not responsible, drift mode active. You can play around.
Yeah. There's potential.
Yeah, there's so much potential to have fun with these things.
Yeah.
So on that note.
Do we talk about everything?
Yep. We've talked about everything. I think this has been a long podcast as usual. We thought we didn't have much to talk about, but then talking about the cars that Ratan Tata inspired, that was nice. We're putting together that video. Should be out in 2 weeks or so.
Hopefully,
a lot of content on it, so it needs to be just get everything together and put that together. But another 2 weeks and that should be out. And of course, stay subscribed to the Evo India channel. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up. We'll do a podcast very soon on our best cars of the year.
Yeah, it's award season.
It's award season. ICOTY jury round, Indian Car of the Year jury round is going to happen. We're going to talk about our standout cars of the year. And then next year, packed year, Bharat Mobility Show is happening. That's the new avatar of the Auto Expo. 17th, as of now, is the media day. 18th, VIP day. And then from 19th, open to the public. I believe they're not going to charge for it. So you just register and you walk in.
Mela is going to be then.
Yeah, so happening at Pragati Maidan, so in the heart of Delhi. So, man, I'm sure there'll be some record number of attendees. Probably world's largest attended motor show because the government is also pulling out all the stops. All the manufacturers are going to be present. So, the start of the year is going to be Bharat Mobility Show. Before that, Mercedes is going to showcase the Electric G.
Showcase or launch, we don't know yet. They just said it's going to make its India debut. So Electric G. So, start of the year, exciting.
Lots to look forward to.
We're gonna
and this year has been like super packed.
Non-stop, no?
Non-stop.
Normally after Diwali, we get a small breather, but this year we haven't got anything.
Yep. It's been non-stop action. We're not complaining. I hope you guys are also not complaining. And on that note, thank you for listening and watching the Evo India podcast. If you've enjoyed this, obviously give us a thumbs up. Share this with like-minded enthusiasts. Stay subscribed to the Evo India channel. Hit that bell icon to stay notified for our podcasts and video drops. And of course, if you have any comments, let us know below. Thank you.